Okay, so let's go to our normal place, riding horse. So just feel gravity pulling on your flesh. So it's like your corporeal body, if you like, your sort of fleshy body, your carnal body is being pulled down. And your skeleton, your structural body, is thrusting up from the ground. So the flesh and the bone are very different in quality. And the energy. So the energy of the flesh is melting. It's like it's this oozy jelly that's sort of melting, like wax that's melting on a candle and slowly dripping down the sides. But your bones are much more sort of reliable and solid, and they're just issuing upwards. So just feel this area. So we bring the mind here and we let the sacrum hang down as though the coccyx is heavy. So the last thing we want is for this to be sticking out. So what we want to try and just appreciate is that when we let the tailbone drop and let the lower back flatten out a little bit, naturally, because we're concentrating on the heavy sacrum rather than because we're using muscles, then that action of just allowing your tail to drop naturally brings in and quietens the mind. So when your bum is sticking out, that's when your mind is out. Yeah, and sometimes it's very useful because if you want to go somewhere, you need to be able to see where you're going. But here we're just trying to bring everything back in. So what we want to try and appreciate is that it all happens here rather than here. I just let my tailbone drop. I come into my posture, into my body, and the mind, which was out there with the spirit, is reeled back in. So quiet mind is postural. It's a matter of posture as much as anything. So those two very different bodies, the skeleton, which is articulated, it has joints, yeah, all the way up the spine, all these little joints between the vertebrae. And then the flesh, which is sort of continuous and oozy. Okay, now just feel the skeleton, sort of approximately. Yeah. So 2 feet on the ground. You've got the shin bones coming up from the ankle to the knee. Then you've got the thigh bones coming up to the hips here. And then you've got these 2 pelvic bones that join in the middle and to the sacrum here. And then you have the sacrum, which is the bottom of your spine, and then slowly, vertebra by vertebra, all the way to the top of the neck, and then the skull and the scapula split off from the spine. and into the arms. So we want to be able to sort of visualize, if you like, the skeleton, because that's the sort of structural pathway through the body. Yeah, so we're two bodies. We're a carnal body, we're a fleshy body, and most of us have too much of that, especially nowadays. And then we're also this really skinny body, which is the skeleton inside. So the part of the skeleton that we really want to become aware of, most of all, if you like, which is generally the part we're least aware of, which is the sacrum, this triangle here. Yeah? The bottom of the spine that's slotted into the hips. Because that's where my one body splits into two. So if I consider the fleshy body, then I have a body that for convenience of locomotion splits into two. But in terms of my skeleton, I'm actually these two things that come up, these two legs that then decide to cooperate and twine around each other to produce this image of oneness. Yeah, so if you're going from the top down, then you're one splitting into two. If you come from the ground up, you're two merging into one. So this dropping all the time, we're always having to come back to that. As soon as the mind starts thinking, the tail will go out a little bit. Okay, so just feel the spine. The spine is sort of back, it's behind you, if you like. Okay, now just release here and just feel the min meng. So this point in the small of the back. There's a feeling that that protrudes backwards a little bit. So it's that really, it's the position of the min meng that helps you pull the frontal brain activity inwards. Okay, so now let's just try this. But just what we're trying to do is just feel the split, where it splits into two. Just let it go down the legs and then up. Yeah, so just making a circuit. So this is the flesh, if you like, the sinking that splits the one into the two. So my one body becomes the two legs. I want to feel that point where it splits the sacrum, and just allow the two sacroiliac joints to remain free, which is really difficult. So considering ourselves as one tends to lock the sacroiliacs together into like one thing. So to actually free them, I need to sort of just let the two legs be just a little bit independent of each other. Yeah, so there's a real play in the sacrum. It's sort of, the sacrum has got this wobble in it, which comes from me not locking the two legs together. So it splits down each leg into the ground, and then I just bring up this mist, if you like, and then it rains down over me. So just feel this play between the two legs. So all the way down into the ground, and then just lift it up. And just feel that, whenever you make an adjustment, whenever you have an insight, there's like a burst of sort of excitement, and the bum sticks out a little bit. So that's inevitable. So we just then have to just relax and bring it back in again. Yeah, so we just need a compassionate mind, a mind that can embrace heaven and hell, the marriage of heaven and hell. So the marriage of, the flesh and the skeleton, up and the down, bum sticking out, bum in. So they're all necessary. Wow. Okay, now just continue, but just bring it to the dantian. So now this is the dantian pulling in a little bit. And then this is the dantian releasing, or the lower back, if you like, strengthening. So what is it that holds these opposites together? What is it that stops them from just fleeing from each other? It's that sort of, it's that muscularity of the dantian. It's like a noose that's thrown around that binds these two things together, and they're always tussling. So the dantian needs to have a physicality. So here we need to pull the belly in. And then here, it's the out that's difficult, because the pulling in is just a muscular contraction. Now here I want to push against that without relaxing too quickly. So I don't want this flabby, floppy belly. So here I'm pushing against the springiness. Yeah, so that, if you like, that's the difficult phase, because that's where I have to push something up against gravity. So that's where I need most strength. It's here. This is easy because gravity will do the work for me anyway. So here I'm pushing against this tight skin. And then I just relax that push and just let the skin tighten back in. Yeah, so it's like pushing into a balloon or a trampoline. Yeah, so we've got this dantian that holds us together, that unifies us. But we don't want to lose sight of the fact that we're many different things. Yeah, so we've got the skeleton and the flesh. One sinking, one rising. So here, this is my skeleton rising up. And then this is my flesh dripping down. Okay. And now just here. So just feel the ward off is on the horizontal plane. So my ward off is embracing this space in front of me. So really feel how your back is the back of the circle. So this is hollow. Okay, now consider the ward off in the legs. So the legs are on the vertical plane. Yeah? So my legs are embracing like this. So in terms of my arms, I feel like I'm behind my space. So my space is here. In terms of the legs, I feel I'm on top of my space. So the space is here. Yeah, so the legs are much more in the thick of it, if you like. So this is why we have to make sure this is forwards rather than back. Yeah. So remember, the sacrum belongs to the legs. The dantian is the legs, the min meng. So this has to be forwards, down into the legs, rather than back and part of the arms. Yeah. So I just settle down. Yeah, so this, yeah, so just feel that rock. Your pelvis should be really fluid inside. And be very aware that it's two parts. Yeah? Okay, now let's just try the other one. So the one for the skeleton, if you like. So just going down each leg and then just bringing those two legs up into the spine. So let's go all the way up, same as the last one, we went all the way down. And then down. Yeah, so just feel the two legs, feel them as two separate things that you have to do one at a time. And then this is very much a wriggle. You're sort of wriggling something up the spine here. So reaching. So the two legs come up, they join the sacrum, and then you've got this spine that's wriggling upwards to the top of the head. And then from there, there's a fountain that flows down. So here you're catching each foot in turn, if you like. And then here they join, but it's very much a twined oneness. It's two things twining together to produce the spine. Yeah, so we're just feeling how the two legs join into the one spine and then branch out into the two arms. So grab, pull them up, wriggle up the spine and whoosh out. Really feel the chest open. Okay, so now let's just take it into riding horse again. So just feel the openness in the armpits. You know, it's like some big person could just come up and put their hands under your armpits and just lift you off the ground, and you would stay like this. Okay, now just feel these two planes, the two hip joints. So the sacrum is just like a small version of this inside, with these sort of pelvic bones sandwiched between. Okay, so what we want to do is just move across. Yeah. So I want to lean on this leg in order to stimulate this leg to push its energy through into my opposite hand. Yeah. And then I just shift across from here. So that this is one of the things that's difficult, is that my leg, you see the leg is bending to receive my weight, but it's also straightening in order to drive through the sacrum and up into the opposite side of the body. Yeah. So if it was just releasing for the weight, then I'd be moving a lot more quickly. I'd be falling like this. Yeah. So obviously there must be a push backwards, and it's that allows the energy to come up. Yeah. So I'm all the time we're doing it, we're moving under control. Yeah. So if I move forwards, I thrust with my leg and take a step. Now that thrust has got a lot of power and would actually make me move much quicker than I am. So I control my speed by what we should be doing is just feeling the resistance to that. Yeah. So I'm coming into this leg, but the leg is resisting it. I'm not holding something tight and just moving like this, because that's force and there's no energy. So the energy manifests when you relax the force until it becomes these two things that are playing together, rather than one thing that's just being imposed. Yeah? So I've got my weight moving down in this direction, and then I've got the push to support that coming in the opposite direction. And I just want to feel that and allow it, relax into it, and then you'll get energy. Yeah, so I'm moving across here. I just relax here, let myself sink into this leg, but at the same time, the leg, it must be sending a supporting energy up, otherwise it would be collapsing. Yeah? So it's got a real sort of bounce. It's got real movement, even though this appears to be still now. It's backwards and forwards all the time. It's like it's just vibrating, if you like. And then I move across here. I'm moving into this leg that is supplying a stream of energy. Yeah, so this is difficult because my mind has to be with the sinking. My mind has to be flowing like this down into this leg. But my mind also has to be feeling and be aware of the flow upwards in this direction. Yeah. And so if you can split the flesh and the bone, then it makes it easier, because you can feel that this is your flesh melting down into the leg, and this is your skeleton pressing up against that into the opposite hand. So the feeling is that the energy rises up the bone. So again, I relax into the leg and just let that ooze through the body, through the skeleton. So I'm sinking like this, yeah. So my sinking is this circuit. Yeah, it's very sort of oozy and melty and liquid. And then through that, there's this sort of structural strength that grows up centimeter by centimeter, sort of. And now I just relax that and so it's as you relax into the leg, that's when you feel the strength to support that relaxation manifesting, and that becomes the energy that flows into the other side of the body, the cross energy. And now just push, so just squeeze here. So you just push a little bit harder and then it will move the body. And so the strength that we're using is just enough to support the body. Any more strength and either the body will move or you'll have to produce an opposite force to stop it from moving, which will then cancel out the energy. So here I'm sinking into this leg, my mind is flowing down and the energy flows up. Yeah. So here, sinking. And sinking. Yeah, so you just want to feel it. And if you don't feel it, then just believe it. There's that lovely story of Chen Manqing, and Robert W. Smith said to him, why is it that none of your students are anywhere near your standard, your level? And he just said, because they don't believe. They always thought he was doing some special trick rather than it all coming from relaxation. So here we just have to believe that it will work, yeah? And just give yourself time. Yeah, it all takes time. You just have to, if it doesn't work after 10 minutes, keep it going for 20, that sort of thing. So the more I can just relax into this leg, the more what will stop the energy coming up, rising, is tension in the joints. So what that means is when the joint sort of compresses bone on bone. So the joint should sort of be springy, like there's space in them, especially across the sacrum, the two sacroiliacs. Yeah. And that's, as much as anything, that's just the positive mind. It's your happy, positive, joyful mind that keeps the joints open. You get down, if you get depressed, the joints will just squash together and then you'll just wear out your cartilage. So I'm sinking down here. And the energy appears in the other side. Yeah. That's always the case. So it's like I lock my mind up with the weight in order to give the energy a chance to sort of manifest in the opposite side. Because if I look at this, then my greedy mind will actually prevent the energy from appearing. Yeah, so it's all psychology, really. I'm just, we're our own worst enemy. So here I'm just sinking here. I turn away from it. Yeah. So the energy appears in your blind spot. This is why John was so good, because he was basically blind. Everything was a blind spot. So 1, 2, just make sure your bum doesn't stick out. Make sure that lower back is nicely flat. Right. Okay, now let's just try a little bit in bow and arrow posture. So the same thing, I'm just sinking into the front leg and just feeling the front leg going through the body. It's almost like the front leg is actually extending up through me. So it passes across here to the sacrum, up the spine, and then it branches across the shoulder into the opposite arm. And then I sink back into this leg. And again, as I sink into the leg intrudes through my body into the opposite arm. And then I come forwards. So I'm sinking into the leg, but at the same time, the leg is pushing up through me. Yeah. So let's just try this one. So I'm relaxing into the leg, but the leg is jumping across the hip. Yeah. So you don't want to let this happen, because then it won't get across into the spine. So the hip has to stay heavy. So the energy is coming up the leg, it jumps across the sacrum, up the spine, and then across into the opposite arm. And then you go back. As you fill the leg is becoming strong and is it squeezing through you, jumps across from here to here, up the spine, and into the opposite hand. And again, if I do this or even this, it won't work. So these have to be sort of level and dropped into the legs. Drop the waist. And then here. Yeah. So coming forwards, you have to be really careful you don't let the hip lead. You don't throw your hip forwards like this. Otherwise, you'll get the weight in the front foot, but you won't get the energy to come up the spine. Yeah, so we're bending here as we come forwards and sinking. Yeah. And then back, and again here. I've got to bend here. Yes. And just imagine your little tailbone just hanging down like a pendulum. Ooh. Yeah, so just try and feel something jump across from here to the sacrum. That's the leap. That's the leap of faith, if you like. That's where you really have to relax these sacroiliacs to get the energy to flip across. Once it's in the sacrum, it's a simple matter to get it up the spine and into the arm, relatively. Is that jump from, is that how the lower body joins the upper body? The sacrum area, that's the difficulty. Wow. And if you don't feel it, then just stand in position. This is like a standing posture. You could stand like this for a minute or so. Yeah, so a lot of these things, a lot of these pathways have to be sort of burnt into the body through practice, because they've had years and years of clogging up through wrong use. Okay, so now let's try the other foot forwards. Same thing. So just coming forwards and just feeling this leg pushing through you. Yeah, so you need to become sort of porous so that the energy has a pathway through. Yeah, and it spirals from the front foot. So it's coming through the body and here. So as though it's spiraling upwards, ever upwards. And then when you go back, this leg is pushing backwards in order to drive the energy through the body. This is almost a straight line in comparison. Feel this. Wow. So it's all a matter of balance. If it's not working, it's probably because you've forgotten a component. The body is moving, the mind is still. Okay. So now just back back to here. Okay, now let's just try stepping. So just stepping forwards, moving the weight into the foot, pushing back and stepping back. Yeah. So again, just feeling the leg filling. I fill the leg and the leg comes up through my body into this hand. I fill this leg, it comes up into this hand. I fill this leg, it comes up into this hand. Yeah, so it's exactly the same exercise, but yeah, so we'll start off like this. What we want to try and come to is the activity in the leg. So let's just get this going first. Because when I sink into the left leg, the energy actually comes into the whole other side of the body, not just my hand, it's in my foot as well. Now, hence kicking. So here, the energy is really, it's in a sense, it's more in the foot, or as much in the foot as it is in the hand. And we just want to feel that, so that we want to feel the foot coming onto the ground. So when I put my foot down, I want to feel it active. It's actively feeling for the ground and actively taking the ground once it's down. So remember, the way we were taught, you point your toes, and then you put the foot down. So it's as though the toes actually hit the ground first, like you're feeling the ground tentatively. And then once you're sure it's okay, then you move the weight into it. So here, I can bring the foot up at any moment. And so we want to feel how the activity, that sort of spirited light activity, is in the really empty side. It's here and here. It's not here. This is where my strength is, if you like. And then it just swaps over. So this is light. And then I just use that to just take the ground and draw myself slowly backwards. Yeah, so remember, full and empty. So the full side is the side that is full of my weight, but the empty side is full of energy. It's not empty of everything, just empty of weight. So as my weight flows this way, the energy comes in the opposite direction into the opposite side of the body. Whoa. Yeah, so I'm with my heaviness. I'm here, but my energy is here. It's a bit like shooting a gun, you know. The bullet is like the spirit that flies out, and you just stay where you are. So here I'm here with my heavy dullness, and the energy is flitting around in the opposite side. Wow. Okay, now let's try the other foot. Exactly the same thing. So let's just get it going first. So sinking into the leg, stepping, sinking into the leg. I sink in the leg and the leg pushes through me. I sink into the leg and the leg pushes through. Wow. So, yeah, so just feel the activity in the foot. Feel the toes. It's the toes where most of your activity is. The heel is the dull part, if you like. So the toes grab the ground. The toes go down, and then they start curling, and that gives me permission to come into the foot. So, yeah, so the better you get it, the wider you will feel. So very much like two halves working together. Mm. Mm. So feel this, yeah. It always, if there's too much of this, then the energy just dissipates. Yes, it's always a trade-off. The more excited you get by what you're doing, the more wayward your pelvis and sacrum will become. So you just got to sort of balance them. Wow. Okay. So let's come back to riding horse. Yeah, so many things to remember, so many components. Yeah, so what is it that enables the mind to open up and embrace the system and allow each component to naturally balance with the others? That's what we call spirit. And so the size of your compassionate mind depends upon your spirit. This is what, especially most meditators don't really appreciate. So just feel your energy breathing. You've worked hard. So there's this sort of lilt, there's this sort of pump. Okay, so let's just try a little bit of the in-out one. So just feel the kidneys. So you've got the min meng, which is in the middle, and then just above them, above it, either side, you've got the kidneys. They're like two silos, two storehouses for energy. So here you're sucking in, and then here you're blowing out. And then just feel like you've got, it sounds silly, but like you've got two parrots on your shoulders, yeah? Or two, there's a presence above each shoulder, behind a little bit, almost like two eyes. John used to call it like the wing crest, the crest of the wing, the top part of your angel's wings. Yeah, so you're not sure whether it belongs to the shoulders or to the head, because it feels almost like it's come out of here a bit. And just feel the calf muscles, feel them as though imagine they're really enormous. You've got these enormous hearts in each leg. And what you can do is just come off the heels very slightly. Yeah, that will intensify the calf muscles. So you're just bringing the heels up. It makes your balance more precarious, so it naturally introduces more spirit, because your mind's just too slow to actually cope with that wobble. So the spirit has to become active. Ooh. And so you've got this whole body sort of behind you. So your back is really complex. And then you've got the soft underbelly here, which is just breathing. with this movement, like a hedgehog. Okay, and then just back to here. And just reel it in. Bring everything back. And remember, you do that by dropping and relaxing the sacrum down. It's a bit like having your portrait painted. Imagine the artist has stuck you in a position, this, and you've got to stand there for hours, and you've got no idea what he's doing. You just trust that something's going to happen. So it's the same with this. You just got to go inside and just do it. It's like as you stand here, you just sprout this sort of energetic body that you're barely aware of. And maybe just before you die, you'll be allowed to sneak around and see what the painter's painted. You'll be able to see where you've got to, what you've produced. As this relaxes down, so I just sort of run my finger, my index finger, along the line down, just to help my mind imagine this sacrum and coccyx dropping, and then just feel. So if you, in a sense, the third eye is just the controlled mind. It's just that the mind that's drawn in as a consequence of this, of your posture. And that just forms like a sort of a gathering, a sort of tightness in the forehead. Exactly the same way as the Dan Chen sort of gathers the energy here, because it's normally just splurging out. Yeah, so it's just discipline, really. Practicing discipline. Okay, good. Shall we see if we can get out of this? So just, ooh, ah. Okay, great.